And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. Men's sheds come from the idea that a backyard shed is a space where men often go to work on projects and escape life stresses. Most men have learned from our culture that do not talk about feelings or emotions. Men do not take an interest in their own health and well-being. Unlike women, most men are reluctant to talk about their emotions, and that means they don't usually ask for help. We begin today's Open Connection with Director-Treasurer for Men's Shed Canada, Audrey Famina.
Women find that when their husbands are at a loose end at home, they get underfoot, and it's been a great place for them to go. It's also great for all of those who don't have, they live in isolation or loneliness, or again, mostly just at a loose end. What do I do now? I've retired, or in the case of ones who've lost their spouses. I know a friend of mine, he was a caregiver for his dad, and he had done that for so many years. He was at a loose end, and unfortunately, he didn't have a men's shed in his area, and he just sort of withered away and passed away because he didn't feel he had a purpose. So it's mostly for men's mental health and giving life a purpose and helping combat with isolation and loneliness.
So do they have a men's shed there?
They have a reused store there, and they figure they keep about a pickup truck load of stuff out of the landfill every week.
Oh, wow.
And the money that they raise, they give back to the community in various ways. They've done scholarships for kids who are going into the trades, because there's always academic scholarships available, but not a lot for the trades. And then they give back in many, many other ways. And I know they've they're going to help build planter boxes for the libraries so they can teach about sustainability and growing your own foods, especially in this day and age. They contributed money towards new computers, because ours were very, very old. They build wheelchair ramps, and they also do stuff such as community events where they're involved in, and they give back to the community. Last year they gave about $10,000 back to the community from the money that they raise, and that's why people are generous in their donations and what they provide in the way of drop-offs, because they know it'll go to good use. They also are great in that if you had a snowblower that wasn't working and it was just a minor thing, but you didn't know how to fix it, they have guys there who know how to do that sort of thing, and they can fix it and give it back to them for a small donation, and then they haven't had to put out hundreds of dollars for a new one or chuck it away. And it's great for the community, for those who maybe are in need or fleeing from a relationship. They can go there and get their dishes and refill their whole kitchen with stuff at very, very cheap prices. And obviously, if they really can't afford it, they help people out anyways. And just recently, they had a community barbecue on Saturday, and it's hot dogs and burgers by donation. And it was funny because there was one little girl who they had boiled the wieners, and she wanted a burnt wiener, so they had to put it on the grill to fix it for her. So, and again, money is raised and it goes to a good cause.
If there was a woman out there listening or watching, and her man's kind of getting underfoot, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to look up men's sheds. BC has a website, or find out if there's one in the community. Jan can tell everybody which communities have a men's shed, and then if they don't have one, then we can look at going to their community, within reason, of course, We tried to do Stewart, but it's just too far. And she said they didn't think anybody would show up yet because they haven't had a lot of time to do any advertising or anything. But that's what I would do, is tell them to learn about it. Go online, go to BC Men's Shed, and you can find where their sheds, what they do, what their purpose is, who to contact, all of that sort of thing. And, they can even educate or present it to their husbands or spouses or partners and say, this might be good for you. You might enjoy this. Maybe you should check it out if there's one already established.
And is there anything I might have missed that you'd like to add?
Only that I am so confident in how powerful men's sheds can be across Canada. And that's why Men's Shed Canada is doing research. We're working with the University of Toronto and Mohawk University in Hamilton, and they're doing research. And they're hoping that once they've done all that research, they can go to the provincial governments and the Canadian government and say, this is so important. You're lacking in men's health, and this is a way to do it.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thanks for staying with us. You make something directly out of the ground and you sell it for money. There's no boss, no set hours, no incessant hum of buzzing fluorescent light over your head. And in the end, you go to bed knowing your profession literally enables people to live. Let's return the conversation as young Femina shares why he chose to become a farmer for his career.
What I really wanted to get into was farming. I just absolutely adored farming as a kid growing up in Houston, and I would spend quite a bit of time on the farms. I worked with Dad for a while, and then at the age of 18, I got my first job on a dairy farm, and I spent probably about 30 years working on dairy farms in different farms in the Fraser Valley. I spent a year and a half out in Alberta. I wanted to run the big equipment, and the problem that I ran into was you were good with cows, and if you're good with cattle, anybody can get somebody to run equipment is what they were told. And so next thing I know, I'm in the barn. Then went to the Fraser Valley, went back up to Salmon Arm, and then back in the Fraser Valley.
Where did you stumble across this organization called Men's Shed Association?
So how that became about was I was struggling with some mental health issues myself. Didn't know which path to go on no more because of my dyslexia, and always used to working with my hands, and I had a body now that wouldn't do that type of work. And so a few people in town recommended Men's Shed that had started in 2017 that I should join. So eventually I did, and got involved with the Men's Shed Association in Fraser Lake, and have been on their board for I think since about 2020, and slowly on moved up the ladder with that, doing things that I never ever would have imagined that I would have been doing.
So tell me about that first day of walking into the Men's Shed.
I was nervous. I did not think, or I was afraid of what it was going to be all about. Was, guys getting together, swearing and talking bad about women and all these type of things. And, with having 6 sisters and 3 daughters, and I just didn't want to be part of something like that. So eventually I thought, well, I'll pay the $20 and I'll see $20 won't kill me. And eventually got to make some really good friends like I've never had ever before in my life. And that basically pushed me to get involved with a few other organizations in town. One of them was Autumn Service. I got involved with it to the point of even being president of them for about 6 months, and got involved with senior housing in town, Fraser Lake Senior Housing Society. I'm vice chair presently on that board, and now the president of Men's Shed Association of BC. But that's only because when all the people, we had a conference in 2022, and I finally spoke up in public. I never would speak up in public because I was afraid that I would be made fun of, which has happened most of my life. And I didn't like challenges, but I was asked a question, and that was from Prince George. And the question was, if we were to start a men's shed and somebody was to ask, what could a men's shed do for me? And I just said, I'll answer that question. And I spoke of what the men's shed had done for me. And because of it, I got to, a lot of the men's sheds all across BC got to learn a little bit about how much it's changed my life and how it's influenced, or what it's done to influence my life, and to basically do things that a person with a grade 6 education would never, ever dreamt of doing.
You're kind of, I guess, blazing a trail, lack of a better word, by kind of going west.
So we have a program that we're doing all across BC. It's actually all across Canada. And my thing, what I was looking at was, we're reaching out in certain places all across the Fraser Valley and areas like that. And we were at that time the furthest north. There was, it was Vanderhoof and us, and there was nothing beyond that. And when I found out how much men's shed could do to improve a person's life, what I said was, I would like to head and do all the ones up north or northwest and hit all those communities in there. And because, like a men's shed can change a person's life. And I always say, if I speak at one of these events, and if I change one person's life, if I prevent one person from committing suicide, I've done a major, major deal for the community. And if they can turn their life around like I've turned mine around, that would be very beneficial to the whole community.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Some research suggests that many men have a hard time discussing their feelings of loneliness. Unfortunately, being unwilling to open up may stifle deep connections with others and may exacerbate loneliness. Plus, the social expectations may prevent a lonely man from investing in a new relationship or opening up to a close friend. Let us return the conversation as Young shares the community reaction to men's shed.
The community response has been very well, because every community is struggling with men with mental illness, or they put themselves into isolation because, especially if they lose a spouse or lose their job or any one of these things, we were always brought up that we were the supporters, we were the tough ones, we were supposed to suck this all up and everything will get better. But it doesn't quite happen that way, even though you'd love for it to be that way. And so a lot of men, they go hide, they go either get involved with drinking or doing drugs or any one of these. And then eventually what'll happen is it could kill them. The men's shed is all about getting the men back into society again and doing volunteer work to help out the less fortunate in the community. And then when we're working side by side, we're talking to each other, and maybe you might have a medical illness of some sort or another, but you don't want to talk to your spouse about it, or your doctor or anybody, but you may talk to another man about it, and all of a sudden you're getting out a treatment that you need, instead of just basically struggling with all sorts of other types of illness.
Could you share one of those stories with us where it really made a difference in your life or their life?
Well, we have one man that was on at Fraser Lake, and he was basically living in a trailer with no water, no heat, no not much of anything other than just a roof over his head. He couldn't even shower. And the crisis center in the community had gone to visit him, and they told him to go join the men's shed, and I'm pretty sure there's something they can do. Well, we were very fortunate that we have two members that are on our senior housing society. He was a year underage to go in there, but he was in need. So we made sure that he got into safe housing, comfortable housing. We also made sure that he had furniture that can go into his place, because we have a reuse store. And the other thing is, he volunteered in our store. And and all of a sudden he started building up courage and confidence and things like that. And about 6-8 months later, he got a job, and which included housing. And the wonderful thing with that was about 6 months later is when Christmas came around, and all the organizations that had helped him out, he had given money back to them again as a thank you. And these are, this is just one story. There's lots of them and all sorts of different ones throughout the province.
What advice would you give them regarding the men's shed?
So for men, if you feel like you don't have anywhere to go, and you need something, you have experience, but your body is not capable of doing the things you used to do, you can go join a men's shed, and with a group of yous, now you can do these projects together, and you can give back to the community. And with the women, one of the big things I say is, if you start seeing that there's something wrong with your spouse, highly recommend for them to join a men's shed. And because we're all about helping out the vulnerable people in the community, whatever way we possibly can. And we work with grants. We will work with you to try help. We've helped people with wheelchair, that couldn't get in and out of their house. They were stranded in their house, and we've helped them out with wheelchair ramps. And these are the type of things, building garden boxes for the community. Like I just mentioned a few, there's hundreds of things you can do for a community, and you do it as a group. You all of a sudden get to hang out with the guys again, which you weren't doing after you retired, or your mill shut down, or whatever it might have been, the industry shut down. It gives you something again, a purpose in life. It's a really wonderful feeling.
And is there anything I might have missed that you'd like to add?
It's a wonderful opportunity for all men. And like I said, for the ladies, ladies have been involved with getting most of them going. And they see it. They understand that, us men, we need something. We might need to have a little bit of a push to get involved.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
In the Man Box, we're taught not to ask for, offer, or accept help. Because of our socialization, simply feeling the need to connect with others makes us feel substandard. For some of us, we are alone because we fear rejection. In this final segment of Open Connection, Bradley Preddy shares why he decided to step out of his comfort zone and help the community of Terrace.
I was kind of worried because you put it out there and you're not sure who's going to show up or if anyone shows up. And I was quite happy because I counted 14 people. Some of them I knew. And it was interesting. You could really hear some of the pain in some of the people's voices. And I thought, boy, this is powerful stuff. We need to do something, We need to help people. And it's not just the people that you're helping, it's the people doing the helping, is healing, So it was kind of nice, and it's funny how the universe works. I just sent an email, and the next thing you know, I'm at the arena in this meeting, and we're going to try and start a men's shed in Terrace. It's a big list. First of all, it's finding the people, finding a meeting space, creating that connection with the people, figuring out what we want to do and how we're going to do it. I'm sure the building part will come along. We'll find a space. And some of the pictures that they showed me of other men's sheds across BC, fabulous spaces. It would be nice, if we could find something quick. But we're looking for a venue. And, once that happens, we'll still meet, still get our program up and running, and then we'll work from that.
You need help in order to help other people, and that would come in funding. Do you have a finger out or on a grant writer or anything like that yet? Or
No, I'm hoping Catherine, and if she's listening to this or watching, I'm coming for you. So need some help. We'll knock on doors. Let's just get it out there. It's a great program. You're helping men. You're helping the community. It's wonderful. I mean, so why wouldn't you want to be involved and help us with some funding?
And maybe even reach back to your former employer. Maybe they'll be able to do something for you.
I can guarantee you I will be knocking on that door.
So I guess, what do you envision for the Terrace Men's Shed?
Oh, we have a blank slate right now. So I think it'll be a space for people to show up, feel comfortable, work on projects, and help the community. Like I said, it's a blank slate for us right now. I'm not sure where it goes, but there's a lot of pain in this town right now, and there's people that are hurting, and there's people that need help, and I think that we're on the right track. You heard Jan earlier, and the things that they've been through, and other places, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a good challenge. And I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone, but if we surround ourselves with the right people, we'll be okay.
Now, if someone was watching this and they go, yeah, I'd like to help out, how would they go about getting a hold of you?
Another good question right now, because it's very fresh. I guess they would call BC Men's Shed Association, and then they could get a hold of me that way. Once we get a space and some people out there and some members, then it'll get easier to get a hold of us, right?
And if there was, men or women watching this, what would you say to them?
I'd say, hey, you want to help make your community better. You want to save people from pain. Come on out.
Mr. Speaker, men's sheds are groups of mostly retired men who come together regularly in the spirit of mutual support. There are now almost 100 men's sheds across Canada, and just last month, the Canadian Journal of Community Mental Health confirmed that men's sheds provide clear and significant mental health benefits by generating opportunities for camaraderie, a sense of purpose, and a sense of inclusion. In Northwest BC, the Fraser Lake Men's Shed has been up and running since 2018. Its members run a small second-hand store, and they do odd jobs around the community for folks who couldn't otherwise afford a professional. I want to give special recognition to John Fenema and John Stafford from the Fraser Lake Men's Shed, who recently traveled to the neighboring community of Houston to share with residents there their men's shed experience. At a time when mental health and social connection are more critical than ever, the Men's Shed movement is a grassroots response that is making a difference, and it's good to see.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.